It's 10 o'clock. I see we're recording, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I see that Commissioner Wilkins and Commissioner Shannon are in the courtroom. I am here via Zoom, so that is a quorum. And we'll go right into 2.0, which is additions and revisions to the agenda. Any additions or revisions?
I had a couple. I talked to Teresa this morning. I just want to update on the Gronquist building. The port met last night with the Manor Group. One update on that. And then there was a couple other items on the North Central Public Health that are going on. And I can just, if it's okay, just include those on 5.2.
That sounds great. And then I'll add 5.4 as Gronquist building update.
And then the port would like us to confirm how to do the meeting on the 22nd. So however we want to talk about that.
Okay. So I will go ahead and add that as well as 5.5, which is the port meeting.
Because that's the same day as the Gronquist meeting.
They want to do it the same day, but how logistically do we set that up, do it, make sure we have Zoom and all that?
Roll in and do it at the same time. That'd be good.
Sounds good. I'll add that as 5.5. Any other additions or revisions? All right, let's go into correspondence and public comment. Public comment first. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand. If you're in the courtroom and you need to make a public comment, maybe Lisa can flag that for me so I can call on you. To be recognized by the chair, give your name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. If you've signed in through the Zoom platform and you've dialed in, to unmute yourself is *6. Or if you've come in through your computer, there's the little mute buttons down in the lower left-hand side. So are there any public comments? And then the other thing I always say for every meeting, for those who are new to us, is that we are very informal. So if, as we move through the agenda, there's an item you would want to comment on or provide input on, the court is very open and willing to hear comments throughout the meeting. So with that, I'll go into correspondence. And we just have one item, which is just a notice from the city of Condon regarding a planning commission meeting, the public hearing that's going to be held. Oh, it was actually held last night. So that was part of the packet. So if folks are interested in that, that is on our website and I think probably on the city's website as well. With that, go into consent.
Add something or talk about some on correspondence. I'm pretty sure both of you got the emails that have been going around from Mr. Stanford on Senate Bill 554. And just wondering if we want to have a discussion about that or you know, at least recognize that there. I did reach out to a couple senators just so you know to see where they're at with it, and there's going to be a hearing on it on the 22nd. And there are a number of citizens that have talked to me about just the whole issue, that want to know where we're going to be with it. So we're putting that out there.
Yeah, and it had come in late enough that I had asked Teresa if she would put it on the correspondence for next meeting, but I'm happy to have the discussion now if you'd like to. And then I
wonder if we should have it since it's coming up for a hearing on the 22nd, if we shouldn't have it.
Okay.
And I guess, you know, I guess I'm wondering what the other members feel about it. You know, obviously I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment, and this does kind of tack it. So I think there's a lot of residents in Gillan County that support the Second Amendment also.
I'm just giving Sherry a second to read it.
Oh yeah, I know what we're talking about.
Okay.
I just don't know right now.
Yeah, and I honestly don't know enough about the bill at this point. I mean, basically all I know is what Wayne wrote in his letter. So I guess I would be of the opinion I would need to actually see what the bill says.
I pulled it up this morning and it's pretty vague. Looks like there's not a lot in it, but it does talk to certain areas in airports and public buildings and schools and concealed weapons. And I mean, there's some detail in it.
Did the senators you talked to think that it has any shot at moving?
I did not get that from, I talked to emailed Senator Bill Hansel, and all I got back was that it is going to have a hearing at 8 a.m. on the 22nd.
Okay. Sherry, did you have any thoughts or comments?
No, I agree. And, you know, getting some more information and finding out, you know, some more details of what it really means.
So Pat, what are you proposing that the court do something, or are you just wanting to raise it? Are you suggesting that we do something or call our senators, or what's sort of the remedy that you're proposing?
What I would like to do, and it's too late because it's on the 23rd, is in my Eastern Oregon county leadership call, talk to the senators and representatives that are on that call. But that's going to be day after the hearing. And so, you know, I guess I don't know. I've read it and I'm opposed to it.
Okay.
And I'll go on record that I'm opposed to it. I don't know if the court wants to do that as a group, but that's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, because the other thing too is if it's just a hearing, then there will have to be subsequent work by the committee to actually mark it up before it's moved. So I'm assuming that it's just a hearing that they're holding and not actually. So there would be.
That might be the best process is to let me bring it up in the leadership meeting and see what you know. Most of those are counties like ours, so there'll be some feedback in that and see what they're doing with it, because they're really they've got tons of bills they're going through right now, and they're, you know, initially it's good bill, bad bill decisions and what they're going to work with. I think we'd be fine waiting until the next meeting and let me find out what the rest of the counties are doing.
And give me a chance to read the bill.
Okay. So
just Google.
I've got it on right now.
So do you want to just keep us informed, and if you want to add it to the agenda, just let Teresa know for the March. Okay, sounds good. Anything further under correspondence and public comment? If not, let's go into consent agenda. Any questions on that?
Not for me.
I didn't have any either. I move we approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of February 3rd regular meeting minutes, consider approval of February 3rd executive session meeting minutes, and consider approval of February bills pending review. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, we'll go into unfinished business, which is 5.1, discuss Cedar Springs Road. And I don't know, Pat, if you want to kick it off, or if we want to just toss it over to Dewey.
I can start and then Dewey can back me up, make sure I have a good understanding of everything. Basically, he has done a verbal estimate for surveying, engineering, and just a verbal at $200,000 to $250,000 to do that for the new road. That would include engineering, surveying, easements, environmental and bioassessments. On top of that, if you look in the package, he has received a proposal to mill off the existing road on the old road and repave it. That came in at $1,115,000. This is for information so that everybody's on the page. That cost is up from 828,690 a year ago. And part of the reason it's up is mobilization's up. The expenses are up in general, but that's part of why it's up. Dewey, is there anything you have to add?
No, that's pretty much everything there, Pat. The milling, there's an extra cost in there for the milling because of the recycle that they need to actually do the paving. And then Gilliam County will supply the rock for that also. That's the rock that's produced there at the stone pit.
Okay.
So it'd just be about moving forward and keeping it on our radar screen because we'll have to get in front of Waste Management and probably get their input and what's going to happen before January 15th, 2022.
Yeah, so we're kind of in working progress up to the point of their budgeting.
Well, and I, what our input's going to be and what we think needs to be done because you're still dealing with a railroad crossing issue, and you still have upset residents in that area, and there's enough to spend that kind of money.
So is the recommendation then that we're looking at the new paving, or are we looking at building the new road? Or are we?
I think we're going to have to come to some sort of a agreement on whether we're willing. I mean, I think Waste Management's position will probably be they're going to have to pay for most of the 80% of the repairs to the old road. And are they willing to put that into the new road? And some discussions will have to come along. I won't be in those discussions. I have a conflict, so that'll be the other two members.
Okay. So, I mean, I think what I don't know, Sherry, how you feel about this, but I kind of would like to do our due diligence on the new road and then figure out whether it's even a possibility with some of the other issues that have come up with Oregon Trail and all of those things. And then if it's feasible, then have a discussion about which one to do. But
Are we going to want us the 250,000 to do the study?
I mean, good question.
Yeah, it is a good question, but I think we need to, don't you?
Well, I don't know how you move forward without it.
Yeah, if we want more information, we're gonna have to pay for it.
But if you decide not to have that kind of money, it's problematic.
No. Well, is it so much that we decide not to, or we find out that there's so many obstacles in the way that it isn't feasible to do it? And if we spend this, then it's an investment in the new road.
I think it's, I mean, what do you think, Judge? It looks to me like that's got to be an investment.
Yeah.
Type of an expense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to do our due diligence to see if the new road is even feasible. And I just don't know how you get around, how you can make a decision. We can't really make a decision until we know whether that new road is going to be feasible or not.
Well, one thing I wondered is if Waste Management or it's Union Pacific, whoever's put the stuff there has done that work, so we get a preliminary idea without spending all that money
Right.
on engineering. Find out what's going on with the Oregon Trail and, at least move it forward at a lower expense to kind of get an idea if you do want to go ahead with the full engineering and survey.
Yeah, I think if there's a way for us to answer the question on Oregon Trail, any floral or fauna, make sure the landowners are on board, or the landowner, I think it's just one. Because there was also a land transaction that was going to need to take place as part of that, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, do we have any landowners involved in that?
Yeah, there's only one landowner, and that's Herb Hosaffel along there. But there still is the issue with the land transaction between him and Waste Management for the spur line. The last time I talked to Herb, that had not been completed yet. And Herb was on board for the project. He thought it was a great idea to bypass Waste Management and the headaches of the two rail crossings. Actually, it'll bypass all three of them.
Great.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that as far as engineering it, you were comfortable with your own engineering. I don't know that everybody's going to be comfortable without having,
right, and that's fine. When I talked with Todd Catterson of Armstrong Engineering and Surveying about the project, he thought everything we had planned sounded good to him, but they still, if that's the thing, there would be the studies and everything that needed to be done. But I'm pretty sure that Waste Management probably had done those in order to do the spur line, the new spur line that they put in, because it's the new road basically goes right alongside of it. So any impacts that they would have would be the same impacts that we would have.
I agree.
So,
Leah,
I
talk
know,
to Waste Management that would be able to answer those questions.
Probably me after some research.
That's kind of what I thought.
That's why you were asking me.
That's why I was asking you. So I make contact with you and
Yes.
we can work on that and see.
It may have been done by, but
Oh,
we could probably
okay.
still flag it.
Yeah. Okay.
so Sherry, are you going to take the lead on seeing that piece of it?
Do that.
Okay, awesome.
And I'll just be involved on the road department side.
Okay, so it sounds like we're going to do a little bit more due diligence and continue to keep this on the radar. Once we have a better sense of whether the new road is feasible, then we can make a decision on the cost side of things. Is that?
And once you get the cost side, it's going to be negotiating with Waste Management and seeing if they'll spend a little bit extra money to put a road in to get rid of the big headache, or if they're just,
Right.
put up with the mess they got.
Yeah.
Some negotiate.
Okay. So we'll keep this on the agenda and just keep circling back as we learn more.
Okay. Sounds good. Leah and I'll, what we can find out and we'll go from there.
Okay. Okay. Anything further on Cedar Springs for now?
Not for me.
Okay, let's go into 5.2, which is North Central Public Health District Executive Director Search Update. Pat.
Okay, there's about three things kind of tied together with all of this, maybe four, but I was on their board meeting this month, and most of the discussion was around a salary survey that has come back to surface because they're looking for a director. So now they've discovered that across the board, all their salaries throughout their district are out of line. So they have a huge problem on fixing that stuff. And the one question I did ask them, as far as the director goes, are they going to decide where that salary range needs to be so they can move forward with the hiring process? They're working with One Tree Hill LLC, and basically in her proposal, she has a lengthy proposal which includes an older study that had been done, and the scope of work for her is salary survey update, which they're in the middle of, compensation strategy, where they're going to go forward with compensation throughout the district, and then recruiting the director and her help on that process. So that's all going on, except this is kind of throwing a little hiccup in it, but they're going to move the hiring in the district or the director and process for that forward and establish a salary for that. A couple of things is Shelley Campbell wanted to know if we would like her to attend a meeting or a budget meeting so they could update Gillan County on where they're at. They've already done that with Wasco County. And let us know where they're at, what their plans are, so it would fit within our budget. I don't know exactly how it impacts our budget yet. I'm too new at this. And then we also need to get a local Gillan County citizen to sit on their budget committee. So we'll need to solicit for that.
Okay.
That's what I've got on that one.
I think we could definitely, if the court would like to hear from Shelley, we could put her on the next agenda.
That's what I suggested. I said I'd talk to the court to see if that's what you want to do.
I think that makes some sense. And it would be helpful to get a sense from them of I'm assuming our contribution would have to increase to cover those salary increases.
Yeah.
So that's
And
my,
it could be substantial is, I mean, they're pretty far off.
How do we do an estimate to see if what we're paying for North Central Public Health is actually benefiting the citizens of our county?
good question. I mean, I think our clinics have an interest in perhaps exploring whether it may be more cost effective to have public health remain within the county rather than send our contribution to North Central Public Health. I know they've approached me about that. They may have approached you guys about that as well to start a
They
conversation.
have.
So, I mean,
We have. And so I'd like to see us maybe do some research on, you know, what does that look like if we bring it back to our county instead of, we give a lot of money to North Central Public Health. And I'm concerned, you know, with the COVID situation that Wasco County is getting all the services and, you know, we can get a Gillan County transportation and go to Wasco County and get a COVID shot. Why aren't we, you know, why isn't that available more readily to us here in Gillan County? And I know Wheeler County has their own public health and they seem to be doing quite well.
Like #1 in the States.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure that isn't something I'd like to see us pursue.
Just a thought. And I know that when I met with them, there was a lack of documentation of our agreement with them that anybody in the county had. And I have asked for that and have got, I guess, the most current IGAs and resolutions that have been adopted in the bylaws and all that stuff from them. So I do have probably more information for the 2 health districts to look at and consider. And I haven't looked at like termination clauses and stuff in it, but probably need to have a meeting with them again.
Yeah, I'd like to, what are our expectations of what we do receive from North Central Public Health? And are we receiving those services for the monies that we're spending?
mm-hmm. I mean, one approach we could also explore, and this is something I think Holly Winslow would probably be open to, is I wonder if we could maybe look at funding a feasibility study, having the health districts themselves do it. So, because they know their organization best on whether they could take on those services that North Central Public Health provides better, I think, than we could as outsiders. But I wonder if maybe that's a conversation we could invite Holly and Dave Anderson, again, maybe even to the next meeting, and see if that's something they're willing to take on, and if so, what a feasibility study, how much that might cost us. I think it makes some sense, I mean, the health districts, our local districts may look at it and decide that it's not worth it to take all of that on for what we contribute. But they might also look at it and say it's feasible between what we contribute and grants and things that are available. It may be feasible to bring those services back to the county potentially, but I don't think we'll know until we actually have them dig into the details and see.
I'd agree, because you've got your restaurant, hotel, motel inspections and all that fall into that.
Now, who does that? Huh?
You know, all that's, there's a lot of things that fall under that, so.
So
Okay.
would you guys like us to extend an invitation to Holly and to Dave Anderson and see if they might be interested in talking to us about a feasibility study?
I would.
Yeah, it might not be the best to do that in the same meeting, though.
We're inviting Shelley to.
Just a thought.
Good point.
We can do Shelley in the first one, and we can do Dave and Holly in the second March meeting if you guys wanted to. Just trying to get those.
We'll have more information from North Central by doing it that way too.
Yeah,
on,
yeah, I think so.
you know, what's going forward and what, you know, what are we looking at for possibly increased expenses and some of those things.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So Teresa, if you can just make a note that we'll invite Shelley to the next meeting and then connect with Holly and Dave Anderson about coming in for the second meeting in March. And then that way we'll have both of those discussions prior to budget, the budget cycle.
When does the budget cycle start?
Good question. Normally, I haven't touched base with Nathan. Normally, the budget committee starts meeting in April, and I don't know if he's still planning on that time frame or not. So we'll circle back with him and see if he's got a calendar worked out yet.
Okay.
I think the last time I talked to him, that was his thinking.
It's still April.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything further on North Central Public Health?
Nope.
If not, we'll go to 5.3, which is Fiber Council update. The Fiber Council had a meeting last week. Basically, the city of Condon had put out an RFP looking for proposals to increase service within the city limits. And because it's a joint council, the county's representatives looked at it as well. And the recommendation to the city was to perhaps, to city council was to perhaps negotiate on parts of the proposal. The proposal did not touch outside of city limits. And so Oregon Telephone was there, and we had at least preliminary discussion about whether they had an interest in serving outside of the county or outside of the city and using the county's fiber line, particularly between Arlington and Condon. And they have an interest in discussing that. But I think one of the reasons I'm putting it on the agenda is I wanted to get a feel from the two of you on next steps. Our strategic plan identifies deployment of fiber as one of our priorities. And so one of the things we discussed at the Fiber Council was perhaps the next step being for the county to look at mapping those areas outside of the cities to figure out where we have pockets of need. And I'm assuming it's probably going to be almost the entire county that's outside of the city limits. But I do know that Lone Rock has, different availability than, say, Mayville. So I just wanted to get a feel from you guys if that's something how you're feeling about next steps, if that seems to make sense. But the idea being once we have that map put together, then we can either work directly with the ISPs that are already in the county to see if there's anything that they can do to meet those needs. Or that also gives us data to go after federal grants to come up with the next sort of plan for how to tackle those areas that are without connectivity. So thoughts on this?
Would that include conversations with Arlington TV?
Yeah, I would say it would. Anybody that's interested in playing in this field, I think we would support.
They offered interest. I know last fall when they talked to the court
Right.
earlier.
Yeah.
I think it would be, they're looking for a way to become sustainable too. And so, and I don't know what they've got to bring to the table, but we need to find out.
Yeah, we definitely need to keep moving forward, and the sooner the better, and trying to determine how we can get service.
And then I guess I need some education. I'm trying to do some, but a lot of this is when you get out in the rural areas, is it ever going to be feasible to run fiber to someplace that's only got 2 or 3 residents, or do you need to get in the air with it? I mean, I don't understand it all that well, but I know it's extremely expensive just to run the fiber, and are there other options we can look at?
Yeah. So would it make sense? I mean, what I can do is follow up with some of our state partners who are working on broadband connectivity and see if they have some recommendations on how we might go about mapping the county. So figuring out which, just looking at the map right now, it's hard to tell who's down in a draw and can't see a tower and those kinds of things. So I think it would be good for us to figure out which households have some connectivity and which have absolutely none. If people are using hotspots from cell phone towers versus, really have no service whatsoever. And then maybe once we have that laid out, then we can begin some discussions with our service providers to see if there's anything that they can do, or if the county needs to support some additional infrastructure to be able to help our private providers get to these homes.
And there's those people that are paying an exorbitant amount for limited access as well. They can get it, but it's
There's a lot of
expensive,
complaints
but-
out there about internet service.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I will keep this on the agenda as well, and I will circle back with some of our state partners and just see if they can give us some ideas. Maybe there's some other counties who have tried this, and they can give us sort of a blueprint of how they've gone about doing it. But I'd love to have a map where we can actually see the pockets of no connectivity, and the pockets where we just need to improve it, and then talk to our service providers and see if any of them can sort of help pick off some of those low-hanging fruit first, and then come up with a strategy for the more difficult to reach residents.
Absolutely makes sense to me.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I see Catherine popped up. Catherine, do you want to add anything?
The one thing I would ask that the commissioners might think about is that the Fiber Council also talked about putting a survey out. We did a survey 5 years ago about basically, are you getting internet service? And I think this can help with the mapping, but it also is going to help with the discussion of how to get what speeds to these people and how much they're willing to pay to get the speeds to the rural residents. So I'm hoping that on this, my task is to get a survey out within 6 weeks. So I don't know how that fits into the county schedule, but I would love to have some assistance on it. I've got some feelers out to some people that work in broadband that also helped evaluate our RFP that came in from Home Telephone. So I don't know how you want to integrate that in.
Is your survey going to reach out to the rural area, or is it just in?
It's going to be county. It's going to be county-wide is what the Fiber Council tasked me with. And also, since we don't want to do multiple surveys, so it's also going to include the swimming pool issue on on that
Oh.
survey. And it's going to go to, hopefully we can capture everyone in the county. That includes within the city limits of Arlington, Lone Rock, and the city of Condon.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
I would love to talk fiber with you, Pat, if you want to stop by sometime.
I will do that.
Great.
I need to get up to speed.
Okay, that'd be great.
No pun
Good
intended.
pun.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Up to speed, 25 megabytes. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Catherine.
Anything further on fiber? It sounds like, do I have, I think I heard from both of you that mapping sounds like the next step.
Yes.
Okay.
Survey. Yeah.
Okay, so I will take that and run with it and work with Catherine as well on the survey, if you guys are okay with that.
Yes,
Yes.
please do.
Okay, I will take that one on. Let's go on to 5.4, which is the Gronquist building update. Pat.
Columbia Manor Group met with the Port of Arlington at the port board meeting last night, and the port is making an offer on the building, and it is going to match what they're asking for it. So that is moving forward. And in that they were, I don't know if we added this, where we put this in there, but with the meeting set for the Gronquist building, they felt like it was a good idea to continue with that meeting so they get community input on ways they could utilize that building going forward and what the community's after. The real focus is on trying to use it in the way that it was intended when it was built and how they can do that. And then in regards to setting their meeting up, I'm assuming it's going to be Zoom access at the Gronquist building on the 22nd. And then the port would like to tag that meeting in behind that for the other issue with the Willow Creek dispute.
And I think we would be able to do a Zoom. I mean, I'm looking to Lisa for guidance, and she's sort of our techie. And I see Kelly's on here as well, but I think we could probably just set up Houdini, our little owl guy, and probably do Zoom just as we're doing right now.
Right, yeah, and I believe we've done it once before in the Gronquist building and it all worked just fine. So there's no reason why we couldn't do that and then just open the next meeting or afterwards.
Okay. So
Okay. So the which goes into our 5.5, the idea is that the port meeting will just follow directly after the Gronquist meeting.
they wanted to, I think they're on here. They were planning on being on here. I don't actually see
Kelly's
them.
on.
Huh?
Kelly's
Kelly's on.
on.
Yeah.
So they could go ahead and post their public meeting to immediately getting ready for that, because they need to get that up too.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And the
Sounds good.
plan is that Ron will be running that meeting, that second meeting, and as you guys agreed.
Yep, that's A-okay with me. So for the record, I'll just note the dates. Let me just double check here. So we would be doing on the 22nd, Monday, February 22nd at 1:00 is the Gronquist building discussion. And then immediately following would be the joint discussion between the port and the county court over Willow Creek. So,
I kind of said 3:00 last night, but I think, depending on how long that first meeting lasts and maybe a little break in between and go into it, I would think.
Can we do that, or do we have to actually say what time that meeting is?
They'll need to know how to post it.
Yeah, we have to have a time. We can't.
I think if you're noticing both meetings, which we will notice both meetings because there's a quorum of the court there. And so I think we can just say the Gronquist building and then immediately following the joint meeting so that we don't, if we run over on the Gronquist building, we're not, people know to expect that they'll need to come to both meetings since we can't really predict how long the Gronquist conversation will need to last. But yeah, we can notice it in a way that we can just run right into the next one.
Sounds good.
Anything further on those two issues, Gronquist Building and the port?
No?
I see Les unmuted himself. Les, did you have a comment?
Wow, you already knew that, huh? Judge Campbell, this is Les Rivera, Institute person. I would like to ask that the court staff make every effort that's possible to post any agenda support material that might be prepared for the joint meeting of the court and the port commission that follows the Gronquist discussion. I would assume there's probably going to end up being something, and I would really appreciate it if you're not going to be able to make it available by email, which I guess would be the other option you'd have, at least for me. If you would please have it posted in time for instant people to be able to take a look at it before it's considered. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. Anything further for the meeting on the port or the meeting with the Gronquist Building? If not, let's go into new business, 6.1, which is consider approval of purchase of used fuel truck for rock crusher. Pat, do you want to take this or toss it over to Dewey?
I will take this because I have talked to legal representative Carrie Connolly. I have talked to her, emails back and forth, and basically got some procurement advice. And her last email, I sent her what Dewey had attached in the meeting packet, and asked her to review that to see if Dewey's documentation was adequate. I was a little concerned about whether, documentation with dates and times of what calls he made and stuff. And I talked to Dewey yesterday. He's got that documentation. I haven't seen it, but he's got that documentation in his book. Is that correct, Dewey?
Yes, yes. Yes, I have all that.
So she was good with the language in his statement, as long as he has documentation of the calls and stuff that he's reached out and found out that that equipment, comparable equipment, is not available.
Okay.
Her response was, "Hi, Pat, I reviewed these and they are fine for the court's consideration and purchase approvals. However, the memos do not include all needed information to serve as required findings outlined below. I'm guessing that the roadmaster has or can create sufficient findings based upon my guidance that can simply remain in his office as a part of the procurement file."
Okay. So we would be prepared then to move forward, is I think what you're telling us.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to just give us an overview on what you're wanting us to purchase?
Yes, what we've got, the fuel truck at the rock crusher is it's the old fuel truck that Fossil Fuel had for years and years. When they updated, they brought this one was available. It's a 1977 GMC, the old one, with a gas engine in it. It replaced a 1970 International truck that we've had issues with the gas forever and ever. And M. Shaw, who does our inspections at the crusher, they do not like a gas-powered fuel truck around the crusher. We've also had some sealing issues trying to keep the leaks to a minimum, I guess, on this. And the truck that's available is a 1990 International with a diesel engine. It's been very well taken care of, great shape. It's one of those deals that doesn't come along very often. Was made available locally. That's kind of why I threw it out here.
Okay. Any questions for Dewey?
I don't have any.
Is there a motion? Do we have a motion?
I move to purchase the used 1990 International fuel truck from Ken Anderson for $17,500. Funds to come from the general road equipment replacement fund.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we purchase the used 1990 International fuel truck from Kent Anderson for $17,500. Funds to come from the General Road Equipment Replacement Fund. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 6.2, consider approval of purchase of used water truck. I assume the procurement's good on this one too, Pat?
Yes.
Okay.
Send him the time to him.
Dewey, do you want to tell us what about the water truck? Maybe? Trying to
There we go. Okay. All right. We've been in the search for a water truck for over 5 years now. I've reached out to all the local dealers, Woodpecker Truck up at Pendleton, Northwest Equipment there in Hermiston, all of our salesmen. I told them, if you find a good truck, something that's in good shape, with the components and everything we want, let me know. There just hasn't been anything that came up. This is a truck that belongs to WI Construction, kind of a local contracting firm. We have actually rented this truck from them half a dozen times through the last 3 to 4 years, doing projects. They are going out of business, do not need the truck anymore, and it's at a very good price.
Questions?
I had someone familiar with the truck say that this was a pretty good deal because it is a good piece of equipment and worth that value.
Okay. Any questions for Dewey? Do we have a motion?
Okay, I move to purchase the used 1986 International water truck for $50,000 from WI Construction, funds to come from the General Road Equipment Replacement Fund.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we purchase the used 1986 International water truck for $50,000 from WI Construction. The funds to come from the General Road Equipment Replacement Fund. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Dewey.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dewey.
Keep doing.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so for 6.3 and 6.4, these are actually need to be considered together. 6.3 is consider approval of a joint resolution participating in funding activities of the Oregon Office of Community Dispute, and consider approval of a joint resolution designating a community dispute resolution coordinator. So I'll try to summarize this, but basically the state of Oregon gives each of the counties funds to support dispute resolution. And it's a grant. And for us, it's less than $1,000. And so for the biennium, so about even less than $500 a year, basically. What we have done in the past, because it's such little money, is rather than create the grant ourselves and administer it, we have partnered with other sort of in a regional collaboration with Wasco County, and Wasco County administers the grant for all of the counties to sort of save on administration. And so basically the question that we're being asked is, do we want to participate in the selection process? Or do we want to be part of this sort of consortium of 5 counties, which is Gilliam, Hood River, Sherman, Wasco, and Wheeler? And a decision has to be made by March 30th. So,
Do you have a recommendation?
So my recommendation would be that we do partner with and be part of that 5 county, based on it being $950, the amount of staff time it would take to actually do it. will end up costing the county more money probably than actually what we would be giving out. So that would be my recommendation. And then all of that money gets sent to Wasco County and they administer it on behalf of all 5 counties.
Has this grant money been used? Do we know? Or
Good
any-
question.
I'm still foggy on what this
Yeah,
even
this
is.
This is
Right?
foggy.
It's, what is this doing for anybody is, I'm not really sure. It's some government
Good question.
malarkey.
It's a good question.
So it doesn't cost us anything to go in with the joint consortium.
No,
And so what happens to the 946 approximate grant dollars that goes into one pool for all the counties then? And
I think that's how Wasco County administers it, is they would track each of the 5 counties coming into their budget basically. And then their staff person who handles it then would have to account for how each of how it's spent in each of the counties.
I guess as long as it has no impact on us financially, I don't
yeah,
have a
clear,
problem with it.
there's mud.
So if we decide to move forward, there's actually 3 motions that we would have to make. The first to opt out of us participating in the actual selection process. And then there's 2 joint resolutions. One is to participate, and then the second one is designating Wasco County as the coordinator.
And so the first one is to opt out, correct? So
Yes.
I move to opt out of participating in the selection process for the 2023 Community Dispute Resolution Program grant funds.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we opt out of participating in the selection process for the 2021-2023 Community Dispute Resolution Program grant funds. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And then there's a resolution in here that basically says we're going to be part of this 5-county consortium. So we would need
separate.
what's that?
We need separate motions, one to approve the resolution, and then one to designate Wasco County as the community dispute coordinator.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
there's
together?
you could approve both of the joint resolutions, but there's 2 separate resolutions.
I see, okay. So I move to approve the joint resolution for participation in funding activities of the Oregon Office for Community Dispute Resolution with Sherman, Wasco, Wheeler, and Hood River counties. That work?
Yep, that works. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We're spoiled. I don't know. Good motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a joint resolution for participation in funding activities for the Oregon Office for Community Dispute Resolution with Sherman, Wasco, Wheeler, and Hood River counties. That was a mouthful. Is
Yes, it was.
there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, and then the second resolution is formally designating Wasco County as the administrator of the program.
Okay, I move to approve a joint resolution designating Wasco County as Community Dispute Resolution Coordinator for Gillan County for the 2021-2023 Biennium Community Dispute Resolution Grant Process. Easy for me to say, huh?
Been moved and seconded that we approve a joint resolution designating Wasco County as Community Dispute Resolution Coordinator for Gilliam County for the 2021-2023 Biennium Community Dispute Resolution Grant Process. Is there further discussion?
I think we need to get the $946 just for how much work it was just to do all that, right, Teresa?
Yes, I agree.
Exactly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, now we'll move into consider appointment of Gillan County Collective Bargaining Agreement, CBA negotiations team. And so as background, for those who are unaware, our union agreement is up in June 30th. The current union agreement, the collective bargaining agreement, expires. And so we need to appoint the negotiating team who will work with the union reps to come up with the new agreement. And I need to, so Lisa put together the some recommendations on who should be part of that. The recommendation right now is that it would be Commissioner Shannon, Lisa, and Diana Moffett, who is a labor attorney out of our law firm that we work with in Eugene. So she would be the sort of make sure we get the nuts and bolts done. For those who are wondering at home why it is not me that is on there, my dad is a union member, and so that conflicts me out of actually participating in the negotiation, since it's likely we may be discussing his salary. And so that is why I am unable to participate in the negotiation and approval. So I just wanted to put that on the record, that's why I'm not taking it on, and have asked Commissioner Shannon to take it on instead. Questions for me or for Lisa on this one?
Oh, I'm all for this. I move to appoint Commissioner Pat Shannon, Labor Attorney Diana Moffett, and Chief of Staff Lisa Atkin to the Collective Bargaining Agreement Negotiation Team.
I second.
Okay,
Feel for your.
it's been moved and seconded to appoint Commissioner Pat Shannon, Labor Attorney Diana Moffett, and Chief of Staff Lisa Atkin to the Collective Bargaining Agreement Negotiation Team. Is there further discussion?
Judge, it looks like Les Ruark might be trying to comment.
Les, did you have a comment?
Yes, Commissioner Les Ruark, for the record. I was just curious as to whether the court knew at this point who the employees and union reps, that part of the negotiating team are. Are you able to say?
I see that Kelly Smith is on, and she is the president of the union. So I don't, Kelly, have you guys selected your negotiating team?
Yes, we have. It would be myself, Mike Durfee, Justin Wagner, Michelle Colby, and Mary Reeser as an alternate.
Great. Any other questions, Les?
No, thank you.
Okay. So again, the question was to appoint Commissioner Pat Shannon, Labor Attorney Diana Moffett, and Chief of Staff Lisa Atkin to the Collective Bargaining Agreement Negotiation Team. Was there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, let's go into 6.6, which is Waste Management fourth quarter and 2020 total year review and report. And Leah, I understand, is in the courtroom, so I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
This is sort of the 2020 full year update, and then just January of first quarter. That's as far as we are. So volumes in January this year have been down by about 11%. We haven't had the soil projects that we normally get. Last year, this time, we had a really large dredge project going on, so those volumes are down due to that. Also, I think we're still experiencing some commercial businesses that have not picked up yet because of COVID, so I think that's part of it too. 2020 full year volumes were 2,875,526 tons, which were up 4% from 2019, which we thought was really good since we were in the whole COVID thing and different things were stopped. A lot of construction projects were put on hold. So we felt like we came out of that really pretty well. Host fees paid to date for first quarter are 393,000. 2020 full year were 4,500,000. Chemical waste management is up this January from last year, 64%. They've got a really large dirt project coming in that's going to direct landfill, so that's been really good for them. But they were down 51% last year. Volumes were just not there. A lot of what drives those volumes at Chem Waste is cleanups of hazardous waste type contaminated areas. Hopefully we'll continue to get this project coming in. Host fees paid by chemical waste management to date are $4,500. Those fees paid last year were $63,000 from Chem Waste. The site updates, we've had a few injuries. We had a cut finger, a broken ankle, and a sore shoulder. So just a few things going on. Chem Waste has been 85 days with no lost time incidents. I wasn't able to get the information from Columbia Ridge. We're still hiring. I agree. That's just like the mantra. We're still hiring. Looking for welders, drivers, and laborers. It seems like we get a lot of applicants, but then we don't get past some of the background checks and things like that as we move forward with that. So it's just been kind of a hard job to fill those things. I know we're also looking for an electrician at Chem Waste. That came up just recently. We don't have a lot of construction projects planned at this time. We are out to Capital Committee right now. So we're looking for money to do projects. So I'll probably have an update with those once we get information back from Capital Committee. Chem Waste, we are still working on Part B renewal, which I think I'm going to be working on that until I die, pretty sure. The Class 3 permit modification, we are still working hand in hand with DEQ on that, getting our final submittal ready for that. We want to make sure everybody is on board and everybody is in agreement with the documentation that we're doing so that it goes smoothly as we progress through that. So we don't really have a submittal date. We're hoping for the end of this month. I don't know if we're going to get there or not. Installation of the portal monitor for the radioactive monitoring. That is the last part of the corrective action agreement with DOE for the radioactive waste. We have the bids out on that project to complete that. We are still waiting for final agreement from DOE on the full corrective action. So we still haven't got final approval on that. And since this portal monitor is pretty spendy, we're waiting for that final agreement. So that final approval. I think, though, from what I'm seeing, I think construction will start on it as soon as the weather gets better. That's kind of what I'm hearing. We had kind of a cool thing happen. We've got a new switch engine that came into the facility. I don't know if any of y'all have seen the pictures. It's a big green thing with the Waste Management logo on it. It's a big power unit for the rail, and it will be used to move the train around within the rail yard. It's not as big as your units that pull it up the hill, but it's going to be used for internally being able to move our train around, because right now we contract with Watco to do any of those movements. So we'll do them ourselves. Well, we'll contract with Watco for an engineer, but we'll provide the power. So it will be a little bit different contract. We are going to do a community event with it. We're going to take it downtown and we're going to let people tour it, and we're going to set up a little community thing for it. So kind of looking forward to that, probably when the weather gets better. that's kind of all I have. Do we got any questions?
The composting project, is that something that's not still on the radar, or can you speak to that at all? Or?
We have a permit.
Okay.
We did the permitting for it, but I have not seen any forward movement on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let you know if we get any information on that. But not so far.
I think that's my own.
I do not have any questions because I have a conflict and she's standing in the courtroom.
She is kind of conflicted.
Thanks, Leah. Okay, announcements and next meeting. So we've already mentioned the meetings that are scheduled to take place on February 22nd regarding the Gronquist building, and then the joint meeting between the Port of Arlington and the County Court. The next regular County Court meeting will be on March 3rd. Again, that will be in person in Condon. And I'm assuming the second one in March will be held in Arlington. We usually do the last one of the quarter in Arlington. I'm assuming you guys want to keep that?
That works for us, but does for staff.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so then I'll toss it over to Sherry and see what you've got going on.
Well, I should have Norcor tomorrow. I haven't got my packet. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to go out and get my packet. I forgot. I am supposed to go out and get my packet for the Norcor meeting tomorrow. And there's a ECAN meeting on Friday, which I'll be attending. All of these are via Zoom.
What, I'm sorry, Commissioner, what kind of meeting?
ECAN, it's the, yes.
What is that?
It's that. Stop asking me that question. I'm going to answer it though. I promise. Extension, county extension, and then of course there's a Painted Hills beef meeting that I'll be attending, and TAPCO is on the 26th. That's my February calendar right now.
Pat, what do you got going on?
Oh, let's see. Of course, I attended this month's North Central Public Health District meeting. And last night was the Port Arlington Board meeting, which I attended. County College was canceled this week because of power outages and
Oh, yeah.
throughout the state. And I've been in a couple of discussions one discussion over the phone and then to the city of Arlington meeting when they discussed a well that they have up on the plateau that needs some work. That depending on what happens with some of these projects coming along that the port's working on, and we may get to where we need some more H2O. And that well's going to take a considerable amount of work to get it up to state standards. Could be in the couple $100,000 range, but it happens to be a well that produces around 900 gallons a minute, it's my understanding, with a really fast recovery, which is an unbelievably good well. So I talked to the Mayor Buffton about making sure we keep that on the radar screen for anything that might come up, and if we're looking for a water source that we may need to throw some money at that depending on what's coming in. And then I met with Caithness a couple weeks ago, and they are in the process of selling to a company, I can't tell you the name of them, out of California. And part of that is they have to repower for that sale, and their repower will begin August, September. We'll probably start seeing some action a little sooner than that, but they'll be into, probably pretty much a full repower mode throughout the next 18 months after that, 16 to 18 months after that. Huge project. Not as big as it was going to originally be. It's going to be replacement of the blades, the hub that the blades attach to, and the gearbox. And there's 332 turbines. They're going to do 320 of them because they're going to end up with longer blades on them. The blades will, the other 12 are too close to the setback, so they can't put the longer blades on them. So it'd be 12 that they don't do. But doing that, Matt, talked to him about the roads and what was going to need to happen to make that all work. But that project is moving forward. So that's all I got.
Great. And I am, again, I am sort of back, transitioning back. And so a lot of my time lately has been actually on some AOC work. So I'm on the Budget and Finance Committee, and then also on the Membership Committee, in addition to the Ledge Committee and some of the other policy committees. So that was part of our strategic plan, was to make sure that we're engaging in that partnership. And so I just wanted to sort of, again, continue for us to circle back to our strategic plan whenever we're working on stuff related to that. Let me see what else I've got going on. I do have the Painted Hills meeting next week as well. So I think Sherry will probably need to notice that if we're going to have a quorum.
Yeah,
We'll both.
because you want that too. Yes,
Yeah, I'll be there
please.
too.
We all
Okay.
want to be.
Okay, we'll have Teresa put out a notice that there'll be a quorum there. And then let me see what else. I think that is mostly it. We're still waiting to hear from the state on building codes. So I will send them another email to see where that contract is. Once we get it back from them, it'll be ready, I think, for the court to consider it. I think that's all I've got. Anything else for the good of the order?
Me.
Not from me either.
All right. Well, then it is 11:11, and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.